Happy Wednesday, happy Cinco de Mayo, wherever you are in the world. I'm sending a big cheers to Richard because we have matching coffee cups today. If you missed last week, you'll realize soon that we have all matching coffee mugs. So if you want to get on it, send me a message. But welcome, happy Wednesday. If you haven't already, let me know where you're coming in from. Let all of us know what's in your cup, what you're drinking, and where you're joining us from. If you're new here, welcome. We are a great group of, I like to think, interesting, smart humans. And we're excited to meet you, so don't be shy. I promise we don't bite. But we get together here every single week and we meet with interesting founders and experts and leaders, all about what makes them great, and we get to steal all of their secrets. It's kind of like copying off somebody else's homework, only we're all adults now and it's totally allowed. So I'm really happy you're joining today. And like I said, if you're new, do say hello. And if you're also new, you might not know, I have a beta program that is launching. I'm super excited about it. Close on Friday. Yes, the signups close on Friday. So we are going to drop a link in the chat, which I never know where it is. I think it's over here. We're going to drop a link in the chat. If you haven't already checked it out, please do check it out. Shameless plug. I never do that, but I'm doing it today. So shameless plug. And if you know any friends or anybody that you also think might need a little boost to help build their presence in business in 2021, I would love you forever if you send it to them as well. But I'm excited today because we have an amazing guest here with us. He is the king of sales. I mean, I'm really excited to dive in with him because I feel like sometimes people think that sales is just for salespeople, and we're all in sales. We're all selling ourselves every single day of the week, selling ourselves, our ideas, whatever it is. You're in the sales business if you didn't know. But I'm really excited to welcome Steve today. He is an amazing sales expert as well as a podcast host. He hosts an amazing podcast called Tell Me Something Good. And my favorite fun fact about Steve is he's a fellow Gator. So go Gators, University of Florida alumni in the house. So please grab your cup and help me in welcoming Steve today.
Yay!
How are
There
you?
we go. I am absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you inviting me here for this wonderful midday break. As you said, it is Cinco de Mayo, which for some of us is Cinco de Drinko.
I was about to say, what's in your cup, Steve? Are you brave enough to tell us?
Let's be real.
Listen, as my favorite man, Jimmy Buffett, always said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Somewhere. That is exactly correct. So I'm not hitting the bottle yet, but it's standing there in homage so that I can, when it's time, I will hit the bottle and start the festivities.
Well, I am excited that you're joining us today because as you heard me sort of allude to in your intro, I am such a firm believer that every single one of us is in sales, whether we know it or not, because we're selling ourselves, whether that's in work or selling our ideas or selling ourselves for that next promotion. And I also think we're sort of selling ourselves in our personal life, whether we're like trying to get a date or trying to make new friends. Like we're all in the business of sales.
So it's interesting because I think the word sales got tossed around over the last couple of years or decades, if you will. The word sales comes from a Scandinavian word that means to serve. And somewhere that got changed to, I'm going to take my product and jam it down your throat, or I'm going to interrupt your day so that I can tell you what I want to sell you because it's all about me. And it's not all about me. It's all about the other person. And I'm a believer that if you build a tribe of people that know you, like you, and trust you, the right ones will raise their hand and say, hey, I would like to do some business with you. So I don't really sell anything. I never have, other than myself, into great relationships. And I think Unfortunately, the relationship side of things gets pushed down and pushed down, hence the divorce rate off the chart. People just don't know how to communicate, don't know how to have great relationships. And if you get good at building relationships, and in this world now, virtual relationships, the world is your oyster.
So do you kind of feel like sales really is more about offering value? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Like at the end of the day, you're not necessarily selling a product or service or whatever it is. You're selling, I can help you with something that you are having trouble with.
So I don't make that assumption ever. I think that's where sales went wrong. I stick to, are we connected? You and I met through LinkedIn. I liked what you were doing. I had no expectations of what that relationship would or could do. I just thought, hey, I'd like to compliment you on your work. I'd like to be there to help you any way I can. And I think, underlying salespeople always have this expectation is I got to make a sale. Well, some of the people that have been the best people in my life, I've never sold, I never will, but they've given me things I couldn't buy. So I think it's all about expectation that, value comes in lots of different ways. It's not a transaction. It's, in my book, I wrote a book called Confessions of a Serial Salesman. People said, wow, man, you've been pretty successful in like a bunch of different categories. How? Because it was always about the people. And if you meet people at scale, so much opportunity comes your way inbound, not outbound. And most people, salespeople, get pressured to create that tension, that outbound tension. We win business every day with people who find us and say, you do it differently. What does it look like if we work together? That's a whole different conversation than me pounding on your door every day going, when are you going to buy? When are you going to buy? Which is so uncomfortable. It's like crazy.
I feel like when I hear you say things like build relationships and go out there and meet people, I am like leading it. I'm like, yes, Steve, I love going out. I love meeting new people. Like I'm all about that. But I know that not everybody is like me, and I know that maybe not everybody's like you. So what would you say to maybe somebody who's joining us who is maybe a little more shy, like maybe more of an introvert, and when they hear you say things like go out and meet people, instead of their reaction being excited, their reaction is like, oh God, like almost like nervous, like they're like shrinking. They're like, oh no, Steve, don't tell me that that's the secret to success.
So especially now, it's genuine and authentic that wins all the time. So I believe 50% of the people want nothing to do with me. I'm too loud, I'm too aggressive, I'm too bald. That's fine. So you can find your tribe by being exactly who you are. We have a law firm in Reston, Virginia. They're the top patent attorneys in the world, or some of them anyway, and they are engineers that became attorneys that came to us and said, we just, that combination equals nerd. How do we build that's not what we're programmed to do. And I said, be who you are, do what you love, and the money follows. And they're a perfect example of they're attracting their audience, who they're supposed to be with. And if you stay focused and be who you are, I think most salespeople are not genuine. They're the opposite. You could smell it a mile away. You could smell their desperation. You can smell their lack of integrity, their lack of sincerity. So the more genuine you are, people will be. There are other people like you. You have to be patient and do the work. No substitute for the work.
No, there's definitely no substitute for the work. And you mentioned your book, Confessions of a Salesman, and obviously, that whole book is full of confessions and full of kind of life learnings and things that you've picked up along the way. I'm curious, when you hear people that have read the book, what is sort of what's the majority of people's aha moments that you pointed out in the book that they're like, oh my God, when I read this chapter or when I read this paragraph, I got it.
So I think the misnomer about sales training, sales coaching, like there's so many coaches. There's a life coach, a financial coach, a yoga coach, a food, everybody's a coach. For me, what I put into the universe was my process. It's what kept me sane in a business that's riddled with rejection. It's the rules going in. I'm not going to be a match for everybody. I know that. Very similar to baseball players who get up at the plate. They're not going to get a hit every time. That can't be the expectation. If it is, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So, for me, I wrote down the process. And I think what people's expectations are is that there's going to be a lot of buzzwords and a lot of theory and a lot of confusion. Like, what do I do next? My book is 27 rules for influencers and leaders. You could read it and work it, actionable stuff right away. That's how I built my career. It wasn't a theory, simple stuff. Wake up early, make your bed, drink something green, that I tell stories of how I learned that. And when you figure out what works for you, and it's funny because for me, waking up early is different than other people as it would normally be. It's a personal choice. Early is fairly nebulous. It could mean lots of different things. But I get up every day at 3 a.m. I haven't used an alarm clock in 20 years. And people go, what are you, crazy? Blah, blah, blah. I do more because I invest more. I have more hours, so it was pretty simple. And I give people very detailed ways that it worked for me. I didn't just wake up one day and have an epiphany and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to wake up at 3 o'clock. Most people get up at 6, 6:30 or 7. I started waking up a half hour earlier than everybody. And I saw what it did to me. And then it was an hour. And wait a minute, an hour a day got me 30 hours a month, 28 hours a month. I was out working people a whole week. I got another whole week out of it. And then it was more and more. And so if you want more, you have to do more. But it's the simple things that you do every day. Consistency in doing that is what makes great athletes great athletes. It's what makes great entrepreneurs. There's no magic wand. There's nobody coming to save you. You just gotta do it and do it consistently. Learn. For me, the best part of my whole career are the failures. I failed more than anybody. I was willing to deal with the failure because that's where all the nuggets came from. Got me to a place where I said, wow, I'm not touching that iron again. I'll never make that mistake again. So.
No, I mean, I have a laundry list of mistakes. It's like the CVS receipts. They just keep going forever. Wait, but we have to go back because 3 a.m. I love to sleep. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like I'm an 8 to 9 hours type of lady, type of gal.
Okay.
So when are you going to bed? How much sleep? Jessica stole my question, which is like, how much sleep are you getting?
So it's interesting because pre-pandemic, I was on the road every week in another city or country speaking. And, my book put me on the tour, but our real offer to the world is modernizing the sales process. The sales process is old. But number one question that would come in is, what time do you go to sleep? Well, I go to sleep when I'm tired. And that could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I might take a 15-minute nap. I'm charged up and ready to go. The power of a nap is unreal. Why people poo-poo it, I couldn't tell you. But for me, yeah, it's unbelievable. We created that in our office when we had an office. We had a room where people could go and shut the lights off and listen to, good music and sleep for 15 minutes. Come out recharged. But the point is, so normally on a regular night, if I'm home by 9 or 9:30, I'm shutting it down. I'm getting 6.5 hours, but it's all mental conditioning. It's what you tell yourself. The brain is so powerful that if you tell yourself, I need 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, that's what you need. If you tell the brain, hey, I can function on 7, 6, you'd be surprised, and so, I have people that when I first wrote the book, people would go, I'm a night owl. And that's listen, do what works for you. All I say is do it consistently. Most people who are night owls are not always night owls. They burn out. This is a game of stamina. I've been doing it. I'm 61 years old. I've done it for 40 plus years. This is not a short little race, man. You got to have stamina to get where you want to go if you want to achieve your own form of greatness. And so these are the things that work for me. it's interesting because my girlfriend goes, my God, you go to sleep that early? It's like 9 o'clock. She likes to stay up till 11. I go, yeah, I mean, most of the time, nothing great happens after 10 o'clock. So it's,
I feel like that's something my mother used to tell me.
yeah, you know what? Your mother was right.
Like, nothing good happens after a certain hour.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you're talking about these lessons that you put in the book and the book tour and touring with the book, what are some, like, if you're just meeting somebody who's 24 years old, 23 years old, 25 years old, and you had to distill, like you said, like your 40-year career down to like, if I could get in a time machine and go back, and like you have this person in front of you who's in their 20s, what are 3 things that you would say you should be implementing these now instead of waiting, a decade or 2 decades until you've been in this game for a while?
You're pretty good at this. That's a good question. So let me unpack that for a second. What would I do? I'd go back to my 21-year-old self and say, don't listen to all the horse shit that everybody else is talking about. Do this, do that, do that. Do what you love, and the money will follow always. So there's tons of people who went to school for 8 years. They're an attorney or an accountant, and they're miserable because they're not doing what they want to do. So find your passion, find what you love, and get great at it. Simple. So not doing that, not being so superficial. So if I go back, I would say, no rush on any, 21, you're 21, you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have a job. Do it, take your time, invest time in yourself. Those are great years. I didn't. I hopped right into the world and said, okay, let's go. I think sometimes back, if I could go back, I would say pump the brakes and just explore a little bit more. But I don't have any regrets, so I don't want anybody to misconstrue that. The other lesson that I would tell myself was that it's always about me, not about the company I work for, the logo, the company I built. Everybody walks into a meeting, walks into a party, and says what they do, not who they are. Hi, I'm the president of the bank. Hi, I'm the blah, 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 and I'm like, who are you? Hi, I am passionate about saving the world. Wow, that's really cool. I'll get to what you do for a living. So I think the overriding lesson would be who you are matters much more than what you do.
Well, and I also think not only who you are, but who you hope to be. Because I think a lot of times when young people or people who are switching industries, they might be new to whatever industry that they're getting into, you just sort of feel so lucky to even start, or so lucky to even be in there, that you don't even allow yourself to like dream about like the future you and what you could hopefully one day grow into. I think that that's something that we lose a little bit as well, especially as we get older.
So as a Gator alum, my older son, when he graduated high school, got an offering to be Bobby Bowden's assistant to work on that FSU football team. So he was like, hey, Dad, I got good news and I got bad news. Okay, what's the bad news? Okay, I got good news is I got a football scholarship. Okay, what's the bad news? It's at Florida State. I was like, but he had a fabulous 10-year career as a football coach. He, at one point, one of his stops, he coached the Gators, which, as going to a Gator football game when your kid is coaching on the sidelines, mind-bending. But after 10 years, he said, I don't want to do this anymore. And he shifted gears, wanted to learn the business profession. And he's the president of our company. He's doing things for the company that I was done. I didn't want to do, but he's new energy, new ideas, new digital mindset, which is for me really fun to work with. The takeaway there is there's no timeline. After 10 years of doing something, the conventional wisdom was, well, you've invested 10 years. That's where you should stay. Our parents stayed in places for 30, 40 years. People say to me, well, it looks bad on my resume. To who? Like, who cares? It's like, if you're worried about what people think and what, that's the other lesson is don't worry, do what you feel is right to do for you. And so, these are all great lessons. But in the book, I talk about every single day, I make sure I have an aha moment. I learn something every single day and I call it out. It'll just happen and I'll go, aha. And they'll go, what was that? And I go, every day I have an aha moment. I digest it and I take 24 hours to share it with somebody. And as soon as I share it with somebody, it's mine. So when you talked about, hey, all this knowledge, everything I give to people, everything, I tell them, digest it and share it with somebody else in 24 hours, and then it's yours. Do with what you want. Educate your own audience. I'm happy I was the messenger, but I don't own any of this stuff. And that's what the book was about. The book is about here. Take it, run with it.
Where do you get most of these aha moments that you're finding on an everyday basis? Is it blogs? Is it podcasts? Is it conversations with other people?
Check, check, check. I'm a big movie guy, so I like, there's so much learning that can happen from music, that can happen. The words of songs are amazing. The dialogue in movies is amazing. I was with my younger son last night, who actually just joined the business. He was coaching at Florida up till last year. And then in February, when they were in Dallas, he told the team he wasn't coming back. He joined us. He's 23, so he's got the benefit of me and my son coaching him. But we were watching the 5th season of Billions, and we're listening, and part of the dialogue was, you have to invest in the process. Ding! That's what we talk about all the time. I don't care what you do. If you can tell me your process, that it's repeatable. Nick Saban talks about that all the time. It's repeatable. You will have huge success in your life, but most people don't. They wing it. They show up and throw up. It's like, no. This is by design. This is what we do every single day. And then you look at it and make changes and adjustments, or, as you can tell, I'm a big football guy. So, you call audibles. No, that's not working for me anymore. But most people do it forever. They go, how does that make you feel? Oh, I don't feel good when I eat that. Well, why do you eat it? It's like, pay attention. This whole thing with gluten, I didn't know, but when I eat gluten, it doesn't make me feel good. So I stopped.
No, that's huge. And I feel like you made 2 points that I totally want to follow up on. The first one being, you're talking about your sons joining the business. So I realize maybe not everybody did their Google homework or Google stalking and stalked you properly before this. So can you describe for somebody that didn't do the homework what the business is? And then number 2, I feel like we have to get in the weeds on working with family, because that is something that I'm just always fascinated by. So take those two as you will.
Awesome. So my career, entrepreneurial family. My grandfather was the greatest salesperson I've ever met, hands down. I learned more from him. I was taught by what I think is the best. And he was old school, hard on me. Like, dude, you're my grandfather. What are you doing? Man. So I learned this entrepreneurial mindset. It's what we talked about at the dinner table. I found it fascinating about the people, and it's very much like a roller coaster. One day you're like, we're going to own the world. And the next day you can't make payroll, So it's like, what just happened? So I've been adventurous in my career. Was fortunate to get together with a group of guys who built a very large cellular phone company in my 20s and early 30s. I exited when I was 34. I took a year off, spent it with my son, Mark, who's the president of the company. He was 5, still to this day, the best year of my life, bar none. No zeros you can put to that. And then I just started doing stuff. In the phone business, I met a lot of athletes. We did business with teams all over the country. And so I knew lots of coaches and lots of athletes, and I saw what it did for my business. I created On the Ball sports marketing, and that's what we started. And the journey for On the Ball has been 27 years. We call it On the Ball Ventures now. We have an investment arm. We look at small startups that need time, talent, and money. So we're that injection. But somebody 7 years ago asked me, after I was sort of going downhill and retiring, which is ridiculous, but that's where my mind was, said, hey, would you come in and speak to my sales team? We have 100 bankers in Tampa that we want to do. And I was like, man, I don't really do that. And then he talked me into it. And he said, here's kind of what I want you to talk about. He goes, I hire coaches and speakers all the time. None of them are resonating with my people. You're a guy that's done it. And so I did. They're still my clients 7 years later. So we built a fairly robust platform for making people better. And you've heard, James Clear talk about 1%. That's our mantra. 1% better every day is 38% better in a year. So there's lots of learning. People think when they get out of college, learning's over. Just starting. Bring it on. So upskilling, getting better personally and mentally and physically. So I have a roster of CEOs that I coach. At some point, I wind up partnering with them. My son has a very robust practice. He coached kids for 10 years. Biggest furniture retailer in the East Coast is his client, that kind of stuff. So we have training, development really is what we call it, because training could be very one-dimensional. It's somebody just spitting stuff at you. Our stuff is not cookie cutter, but we're having a blast. Our business doubled during the pandemic because we were big proponents of virtual long before anybody had to. So we built that brand position and people came to us and said, we're stuck, we need help. And in a very short order, we got them unstuck. And it's just like anything else. If you do good work and people swear by it, that's what sells itself. So it's been an amazing time. So that was the first part of the question. Now the second part of the question. So I worked with my grandfather and my dad. I knew what that was like. We have a very, very tight-knit family. We're very, very, very close. When my son decided to jump from college football, I said, look, I don't think you should come into business right away. Number one is I'm retired. I sold my business. I'm sort of not in it. I'll get in it if you want me to, but let me introduce you to some people. I introduced him to the people at ESPN. They hired him as a digital advertising salesperson. No surprise, he knocked the cover off the ball because I coached him. But when he decided that it was time to go into the family business, he called every single partner I've had in business, good or bad. So he did the homework. He heard all there was to, and so he did not treat it as a family business. We were family, but he treated it like a business. This is what I think people should do. Don't leave any stone unturned. Do your homework, do the research. He knew exactly what he was getting. We laid out the parameters, and we have an awesome culture, awesome time. Couldn't be prouder of the both of them. And, I think if people show up to our morning show, which we do similar live, we do something called the Daily Huddle. We hear all the time the dynamic between you and your son is off the chart. And people admire that. It takes a lot of work and a lot of communication. And, he's 34 and he's bright and energetic, and you can see it's not bullshit. It's really, he's developed his own brand, and, so what could be better for that?
I'm curious because, you talked about Daily Huddle, which, by the way, if anybody hasn't checked out the Daily Huddle, I highly recommend it. I've joined it. It's great, super fun group that Steve gets together every single day. And what time is it at? So
we go live 7:58 a.m. Eastern time. It's generally a 25-minute show that has music and culture, but mostly it's like your sales meeting in the morning. There's some rich content that's actionable that day. So today, for instance, we did the business of tequila. There'll be lots of people drinking tequila, but we taught people about tequila, about what's happening, about, like, a lot of people didn't know that John Paul Mitchell, the shampoo brand, he owns Padron, and his story is phenomenal. I've been fortunate to get invited into all of those masterminds where you sit with that guy and he's as humble as you would imagine, just telling you, hey, I just saw an opening and I went for it. He didn't really know tequila. Someone said, hey, you should check out this agave thing. So, but we mix in comedy, it's just a lot of fun. So we love that people come, but it's what my son and I would have done anyway. We kick off every day at every company we ever did with a daily huddle. We just, at the beginning of the pandemic, said people need something. And now there's 25,000 people that come in that show every day. So it's pretty wild.
I love it. Okay, so for somebody who might be considering working with family, whether that's letting their kids into the business as you did, or maybe it's them going to work at their cousin or aunt or uncle or family, what are two sort of best practices that you would recommend? I mean, I heard you talk about communication, but I would imagine there also has to be some pretty clear boundaries. Would you recommend one of those things where it's like, leave the work at work and when you're home, or what are some best practices that you guys have found have worked really well for you?
So I think it's unrealistic to say you're going to leave the work at home. It's what we do. We live it. It's like when I speak to people in business and they go, oh, it's after 5 o'clock. I don't do that. I go, there's plenty of jobs that, you can go cook French fries if you want. It's not what you signed up for. Live your business all the time. That doesn't mean you need to work your business all the time, but it's part of our DNA. We enjoy each other's company, which is, no matter whether it's family or not, if you build a culture that is all about performance, we push each other to get better, which we do. We are as competitive as they come. And it is, I'm glad that I'm still winning, but just, it's a tough dynamic because people take shortcuts and they have different expectations that they don't communicate. There is a tactic in business called an upfront contract. Most people think the contract happens after the sale. I think it happens before the sale. And that's clearly defining what your expectations are. Kim, I'd like to come on your show. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's what I'd like my audience to get. All of the parameters up front. So you ever get in a conversation with somebody and they go, oh, I didn't really know what you meant? That's your fault. It's your responsibility. So we are very clear about expectations, very clear about communications, and very, very defined at goals. We have very sharp written goals that you can't fake. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. And if you're willing to look at yourself as saying, what am I missing? Even though my son's, 34, and he could say to me, here's your blind side, Dad. You're not seeing this. And I can do that to him in a genuine, authentic way. We're back to that with no agenda and no, I'm your dad. We're going to do it just because I said so. Well, that's ridiculous. You would never do that in business. There are CEOs that do that. Those are bad CEOs. Why are we doing it this way? Because I said so. Well, that's not a high functioning culture. Cultures that are breathing human, have that breathing spirit are the ones that really are fun to work in, where people are fired up to show up, fired up to do the work, fired up to climb the mountain and go, what's the next mountain we're going to do? And God, I thought I was done. I built very big businesses and very small businesses. This is the most fun I've ever had in my life. So whether they're my sons or not, I think the fact that they're my sons is a bonus, but they're really good at what they do. And there were plenty of my friends who said, you're starting the engines again? What are you doing? You're just going to make a spot for your son? And I was like, not at all. As a matter of fact, I think he's better than me. Like, he's got all the tools to be better. I want to see that through. And that's just pure, love and admiration. And, so all those things, if you bring them to the party, they're a plus, not a minus. There are some family businesses where, regardless of the business, they just dislike each other. So disliking each other and getting into business is like a stick of dynamite, just waiting to blow up.
Well, and what you talked about, I think, is so important. And Jeff makes a good point here because it is all about culture. And it's culture not only internally at an organization, but it's the culture you set externally, like to the rest of the world. And I think that this is a really interesting question to think about for you, Steve. How do you treat it so that you're inviting people in who are kind of like, you're inviting them in versus like reaching out?
Perfect. So the entire world, let's give you a case study. I'm calling on XYZ company, and Kim, you're the decision maker at that company. Most people think they're selling the logo when they're actually selling you. So if I make it about you and I say, hey, Kim, I see that you're a Gator and you're really involved in all of this stuff. I'd love to have a conversation with you to learn about your experience at Florida. Boom. Nothing about business. We connect, good things happen, great. Nothing happens, great. You don't buy from me, but you refer me to somebody, even better. But it is all about you. And for those who have been in sales a long time, we used to have to wait to get in someone's office to do that quick scan around the office and go, oh my God, they're a fisherman. They went to this school. And there was no other way to find that information. That information is clearly right in front of people, yet they sail right in. And this is the funniest part, using LinkedIn as an example. The idea that somebody would reach out to me cold to handle my finances and spell my name wrong. It's like they don't even know me. It's like seriously, I can't even imagine. But this is the world. This is what sales training is. This is how to prospect. We teach people how to do it in a different way, take advantage of the tools. There's so much new stuff, ways to create meaningful relationships. And I will tell you this, I've heard this a zillion times. Can't wait to get back to face-to-face. Well, guess what, Kim? You and I are face-to-face right now. There will be a time when we get to face-to-flesh, when we go back to that, and we will treasure that time differently than we did before, because all of us have gone on wasteful meetings, wasteful things where now I got to drive all the way back. They didn't show up. They're a jerk. That stuff's over. Now face to flesh is going to be really cool. You can only do it on your terms. Face to face, let's do it in 15 minutes. Let's go. So.
No, I love that. And I also love this point that Keith brings up, because I think it ties into your point about people reaching out cold on LinkedIn and like spelling your name wrong. I always get on my soapbox about how freaking terrible that is, and I hate it. But if you do have, what advice would you give somebody who's, trying to find new customers or trying to locate people who they think might be a good person for them to get to know?
So I would have them write the word customer on a piece of paper, crumple up the piece of paper, take out a lighter and burn it, because you're not trying to find customers. You're trying to build relationships that turn into customers. Reorient your thinking, make friends. Can you make 5 friends every day? If you only do it 5 days a week, which to me, Saturday and Sunday still have day in it, but if you made 5 friends a day, it's 25 a week, it's 100 a month, it's 300 in a quarter, it's 1,200 in a year. Think about the power of that tribe that you built. Some will raise their hand and want to do business. Some will refer you to business, but you've lit the fire to do anything you want in life. People aren't willing to do the work. They want immediate success. Here's my credit card. Give me my whole wardrobe. Give me my car. Give me my, what? Do the work. It were up to me, like my younger son is getting into business development. We do not want him to sell one thing ever. None. Zero. 90-day plan to build relationships that we can manage the metrics. And when he does that, and by the way, no surprise, he brought in an opportunity today, fellow Gator, guy that played football, 55 years old, and played football at the Gators. So who is he reaching out to? He's reaching out to fellow Gators. Hey, I used to coach at the football team. Are you interested in some stories? So, when Keith said, how do you build those relationships? If you take what you're passionate about and you're willing to share it with an audience, you did, You did great. And look, we met. Now, we would probably not meet in any other universe, but we did. And we're going to be friends for a long time. I told you, if you need my help, you got it. I didn't ask for one thing in return. I don't have any expectation in return. You know, you do more on the give side. The universe takes care of all of it.
And that was another thing I was going to say, because I feel like you, Steve, in addition to the company, but you as a human, you give a lot. You give with relationships you're building. You know, obviously the daily huddle is another great give. How do you find the time, or I'll use myself as an example. So I find that it's very easy for me to give. I have no problem. It is very hard for me to ask. So like, I'm launching this beta program, and it is very easy for me to help people with, but the thought of like asking someone like, hey, can you fill out this survey for me? Or like, hey, can you, if you're interested, like, can you think about signing up? Torture. Like I hate it. So what is that balance between giving and then asking? I know there's always that famous Gary V, what is it? Jab, hook or something like that. Like give, ask or something. But what if you sort of suck with the ask part?
So first of all, a couple of shout outs to my fellow huddlers who are here, Carissa and Devin, both great people who show up every morning, and they're very well networked. So if your strategy is as loose as you just explained, right, none of the tactics are going to work. So, you know, the idea to build a strategy that is airtight of how am I going to launch, how am I going to implement, then you can look at the toolbox and say, I'm going to do this, this, and that. We're just very different. We don't do anything that is not orchestrated on a whiteboard. Here's the steps. You know, how many of these do we need to do to get to move to next? And they share. And so
for you, like the daily huddle and everything, that's all part of like the master plan.
Oh yeah, there's nothing random. You know, people say, well, how do you do it? Well, number one is I love it. Number two is it is our give, but because of our give, we've been exposed to so many more people than we ever could. And all of those people are telling the story like, this is amazing. This is great. And they're telling somebody and inviting somebody. And so we're creating opportunity every single day just by doing what we do. And if you give a lot, this was the start of my career. This is a really cool tidbit. So I was like, okay, what am I doing with this phone business, whatever? I joined every charity that I could get my arms around. Picked 3 that I liked. I would go, who else is involved at the highest level at charities? Do the math. Well, there's 60 CEOs over here. There's 40 executives here. All I did was show up and do something. I just volunteered. And they were like, who is that guy? Oh, I don't know. He started a new phone business. 60 dialogues, 40 dialogues, another 40, off to the races. So now it's easier to do that. If I know that somebody's philanthropic, all I do is I say, hey, I see you're really into JA. I'm on the executive board there. Boom, you know, I'm on that board too. We should talk about how maybe we could do some stuff to raise money and raise awareness. So that's a commonality based on what I give. And I think the world is programmed like Yelp. Okay. So what does that mean? That means every restaurant owner says, we have the best meatballs. I say, I don't care what you say. I want to know who's eating there. That's what Yelp did. Yelp said, hey, these are the best meatballs. These are the best meatballs. These are the best meatballs. So I don't want you to believe my rhetoric. I want you to see it. What people are saying about me, not what I'm saying about myself. And that strategy of having other people talk, you show up in other people's dialogues on a regular basis. I don't care what you're doing. Pow, just explodes.
I love that. And I feel like you're full of all these like little gems. I feel like every time we talk, I get one more little nugget, which is so awesome.
I mean, in all candor, that's why people hire us because I couldn't tell you ahead of the coaching program what you'll learn, but you'll walk away every coaching session with, wow, okay, what do I do? And so I see that Kelly said something that you think you're doing it right. I'm not suggesting you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying that, if you told me the strategy, I would tell you what the tactics should be.
No, totally. Okay. This is my favorite part of every single coffee meeting we have because it's like the caffeinated speed round questions.
Ooh.
So I'm going to take a sip. And then, are you ready?
Okay, I think so. Let's roll.
Okay. What is something that you have started doing lately or using lately, could be like an app or something like that, that you are obsessed with, like you're loving it?
Video. Simple. We use video to communicate internally, externally. It is the number one skill set that people should do if they're in business. They don't understand. It's not videoing a commercial, but there are so many applications. The one that we choose to use is Vidyard. We are part of their executive coaching team because they saw that we got it. We got it early. And so lots of different ways to use video through text, video through LinkedIn, video through email. But we've eliminated Monday morning meetings for companies. They do one video and then expectations come back. So video.
And it's video like VID and then yard, like the backyard?
Correct. Yeah. So anybody here that wants, a 10-minute something on Vidyard, just reach out to me. My calendar is open. Get on it for a cup of coffee, which is what I do. And I'll share with you, game changer. We have legitimate case studies where I ask people, why did we win this big chunk of business? Because you sent a video that blew our minds.
I mean, I'm hooked. I'm about to sign up for the intro.
Yeah, we're actually doing a video selling, video education webinar. I think it's May, more likely June. We do it in our studio. We have a big studio now and some fun stuff that we can have a big Zoom screen. So that's coming up. So pay attention. But if anybody wants, just the skinny on it up front, absolute game changer. I make all of my introductions by video. People go, wow, man, that was cool.
I love that. Okay, so with all of the people that maybe you follow online, whether it's on LinkedIn or maybe it's on Twitter or Instagram or another platform, what are some, well, I guess they could be brands too. They don't just have to be humans, but what are some brands or people that just kind of like light you up, that every time you see something from them, you're just like, yes?
So I would start with somebody who is my business partner now, somebody I met on LinkedIn 2 years ago. He was dropping some great content. I reached out to him and I said, kudos, brother. That is just great stuff. We should connect for a cup of coffee. We did. At that time, it was in person. He was in Delray. He's a monster entrepreneur. I was thrilled to get the opportunity to just meet him. 1 year, fast forward a year later, we're partners in a new part of our business called Get on the Ball. And his name is Joe Mullings. And if you follow him, you will see how it's done. He is a master, the CEO of a couple of different companies, the Mullings Group being the organizer. But we're partners in something that we're doing together. And it all came virtually. It started through LinkedIn. And I didn't call him up saying, hey, can I talk to you about your business? I just said, you're a cool guy, man. I want to listen and learn from you. And, I think the adage of you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with, Joe's one of my 5. So
I love that. Well, and I would say you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, both like this, like on video, digitally, in person. I feel like the 5 people has expanded with
it's made. That's a great point, Kim. The world is very small. So we just started a fund in Ireland that we're going to be toying with some companies in Europe with early investments. That would have never happened in the old world. The new world is just seamless, time boundaries. I have an awesome guy in Ireland. Those who are watching have seen Sean Flood show up and he's the dude and he's great. And we've always wanted to do something and we're doing it, so there's no boundary.
I love that. Okay, so it seems like you're always having these aha moments. You're always sort of learning as much as you can. What's the next thing that you're really hoping to learn? If it's like a language or maybe like a new skill, what's something that's kind of on your to learn list?
So it's interesting because a lot of what I want to learn is driven by what my clients want to learn or things that I see that there's a need for my clients to know. And those are confidence. People think success, that the whole confidence and success thing, people think I'm successful and then I'll be more confident. Confidence comes before success. And when you break that down, which we have, and that came out of a client conversation, and then I'm enamored with empathy. The world is not empathetic. And I think it was clearly at the start of the pandemic, nobody called out that moms that were working in the workforce got called home to take care of their kids. It was like, hello, how about how you doing? How's it going for you, man? This is crazy. So I think, learning these soft skills there's no school, you didn't get a course on empathy, learning what it is and learning, all of that stuff. I'm intrigued. So I do the work. And then what my aha moments happen, I put them into my own, dialogue, my own, content. And then I share it with people where it's digestible. They can go like our confidence success module is brand new. It's crystal clear and you can run with it really fast. And people get an aha moment when they go through it. They go, oh, man, that's exactly what I was feeling. Here's another one. Imposter syndrome. Most people have never even heard of it yet. 80% of women deal with imposter syndrome. The most successful women in the world, deal with imposter syndrome. So what is it? What does it mean to me and how do I deal with it? So.
Well, that's a lot of learning. That's a lot of learning on your to-do list, but I like it. Okay, if you could give us all homework this week that we would do, it could be to watch a certain movie, it could be to listen to a certain podcast. I will shamelessly say it could be to join the Daily Huddle, but what would be a good homework assignment for all of us to try this week?
Can you read my shirt? Hold on.
Tell me something good.
So one of the rules in the book started early in my career. I'd walk in and I'd say to somebody, how are you? And they would just throw up all over me on all the bad stuff. I was like, oh shit, man, what am I going to do? Whoa, like this is so bad. How am I going to get you back to a place where you can even listen to me? So we changed it. All of our salespeople, the person who answered the phone at our company, hi, you've reached, the name of my company was ABC Cellular. Hi, you've reached ABC Cellular. Tell me something good. Now, even somebody who was calling in an irate situation, you've diffused it. Well, there's always something good. Same thing with people. If you start out by asking somebody to tell you something good, whatever they tell you will be the foundation of your relationship forever. And I'll give you the example. Somebody we worked with, that banking client, Darlene, tell me something good. She was off balance. She didn't really get it. Then she said, wait a minute. My son just finished his second year at MIT. And she was lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. Tell me more. Well, I've known Darlene for 7 years. He is graduating as a rocket scientist from Stanford and going to work for Elon Musk. So every time I call her, she thinks of me asking her, tell me something good. And the first thing she says is, oh my God, my son this, my son this. You want people to keep you around? Ask them to tell you something good. Make them feel good.
I love that. That is the best homework assignment ever that I think we've ever gotten on this show. So where can people keep learning from you? Where can they stay up to date on what you're doing and maybe keep getting these sort of tips and tricks and aha moments of their own from you?
So the daily huddle is every morning. The only way that it's easy to join. There's no fees. There's nothing. You need to reach out to me, connect with me and say, hey, I've heard about the huddle. I want to get in. So I'm happy to do that. I am all over social media. I do Instagram stories. I do everything I do myself. So there's nobody, I have somebody in the organization. His title is Director of MIH. He makes it happen. So he is my guide when I need help because I got a lot of balls in the air. But I answer all of the emails and all of the content is driven by me. If you, by the way, another person you should follow is a guy named Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you know Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse's awesome. He's a friend. He's a partner in something we had done a while ago. We're going to partner in something again. And I had invited him to speak at an event in Atlanta that I did. First live event in 14 months. And he and I were the two keynotes. And we crushed it. So you should follow him because he gives real world. And for those who don't know him, he's married to Sarah Blakely, who is the woman's woman. She owns Spanx. He started Marquee Jets. He started Vico Water. And he's now the owner of the Atlanta Hawks and one of the coolest, most genuine human beings on the planet. So anyway, he does all his social. I do all my own social. So when you reach out to me, you get me.
I love that. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and impart all of your amazing wisdom. I know I am so thankful and everybody else is so thankful. And so I would, again, encourage everybody to get on your social media platform of choice and follow Steve because I can safely say he delivers every single time. So thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. You keep doing what you're doing. I love the whole energy, all the stuff. When football season starts, let's connect, maybe go to a game together or something, but you never know.
I love it. Well, thank you, everybody, and have a great Cinco de Mayo and the rest of the week.
Oh, wait a minute. Ready to go. Here we go.
Ready to go.